Welcome to the first instalment of the London Divisional YouTube channel, and I'm joined by the king of the press box, Jack Kelly. Jack, it's an honour.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be on.
Thank you, mate. Obviously, not exactly the busiest season within Fulham season right now, but it is silly season, which obviously is a bit of fun. So first, we're going to look at some transfer rumours, and the biggest one at the minute, Jack, that I'd say, it's probably the most unlikely, but it is quite intriguing. I'm going to start off with Harvey Elliott. What do you think, mate?
Look, this is an interesting one. I think there's definitely interest, and I actually think there could be interest from both parties. I just don't necessarily think, given who else is in the race, I don't necessarily think we're going to sign him. But it's interesting because he's obviously a player who every time he's come back to the cottage, he's been booed. Every time we played at Anfield and he's been warming up or been on the pitch, he's been booed. The relationship between Fulham fans and Harvey Elliott is like awful. However,
I think that it's sorry.
no, don't worry. His family's based in London. I think they might have moved up to Liverpool. I won't say I've been tracking his career that much since he left Fulham. It would take a lot of repairing from both sides. Probably more like the Fulham fans have a huge grievance against him, which is obviously very harsh. He was a 15-year-old kid at the time. He got offered a move to Liverpool. Obviously, a free transfer, so tribunal. So obviously fans felt upset. And he's obviously gone on to do very, very well. I think that it could rumble on, but personally, I just don't see it happening. Albeit, if there's interest, there could be a deal there to explore.
Yeah, of course. I think that my take on the situation is I think that he offers something that this Fulham team just simply doesn't have. I think that what was criticised much about this Fulham team last campaign was our sort of lack of cutting edge in the final third, like our lack of that, that bit of flair that can unlock a game. And I think that Elliot showed a light. I said this to you, Jack, last night actually on your live stream on Twitter. But I think that his performance in the semi-finals of the under 21 championships, 2 days ago now, I think that showed what he's got to do, and I think that could, I think that he could really unlock this Fulham team. But if I'm being honest with you, I think that you may or may not agree, but I don't think that he'd come back, because I've got to say, mate, out of anybody that I've seen come back to the cottage, he has got it maybe the most out of anybody that I've seen. He's quite incredible right there. Yeah, I'll move us on to Romulo Cardoso from Tete. Obviously, that's the first Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano sort of big tweet that we've got, apart from Ricardo Pepe, but that was not as maybe as confirmed as Cardoso was. What are your thoughts on the Tete man?
I think when Ornstein goes with a tweet, you've got to take it incredibly seriously. 16 million euros, and he flat out said it was rejected. And the fact of the matter is, they want 20 million euros, and I think we can just probably stump up that money, and then suddenly there's a conversation to be had. And I think that, like I say, Ornstein doesn't tweet anything. Like, I've never seen Ornstein tweet something and it's just gone dead after one rejection of the bid. I think we'll go back in. It's so frustrating because a lot of some Fulham fans don't actually know this, and some Leeds fans obviously don't know it. They've gone, well, if they're in for a new striker, they'll sell Rodrigo Muniz to us. Happy days. And even some Fulham fans are saying, well, that means that one of Rodrigo Araújo's off. No, it's a third striker. I don't know how many times I've got to say it. Just because Vinicius wasn't around that much last season doesn't mean that we just need two strikers. Because if one gets injured, we need one on the pitch and one on the bench. Otherwise, we're completely screwed up top. It's an additional striker to compete with Rodrigo. And then obviously Raul as well, who's going to be in the mix as well. I don't know an awful lot about the player. I need to watch him. I need to have a look at those clips. I've seen a couple, which is decent. Look, he fits the mould of a silver striker for sure. But yeah, this one looks like it could be a goer.
I agree. I think that what I'll do is I'll plug my article on Medium, like on my Twitter. Who is Romulo Cardoso? Like, I still can't say his name, but that's a work in progress. But I think that what it offers for him team, I think that what he said, Jack, he fits the prototype of a silver striker perfectly. But I think what he offers that maybe people don't know much. I'm not going to pretend to have watched loads about him anyway, but from what I found out about him, he's somebody who's 6'4", he's a big lump in the air, but he's also got a deft touch at, live his feet. I think that he would probably offer something quite new and a bit different to Rodrigo and Raul, while still offering that target man type of striker. And I think at the age profile that he's got, I think that is sort of the way that Fulham should really be looking at this transfer window.
Absolutely. And I think that it's not a crazy amount of money as well. If someone had told me, if you think Fulham are going to buy a new striker, how much do you think you'll spend on it? I'd probably say around the £20 million mark. A £20 million striker joining the Premier League, the expectation is to get 10, 15 goals, at least minimum 10, 12 goals. So I think he'll be in and around the team if he gets in, if he signs. But of course, there's a long way to go in this one. And there's been, I think Pepe's just one that's it's too far. They want too much money. We're not going to pay that money. He hasn't played for months. Taremi's a complete non-starter. I've heard that's absolutely nonsense. So this one's the front runner in terms of the striker situation. It could all change, of course. I'm sure there's a long list of strikers we're out to get. So watch this space.
Yeah, 100%. Say that you looked at the players that we've been linked with this week. Like I've got a list here. I've got Amari Hutchinson or Zinchenko, or I've got even Matt Ryan. That was your exclusive, Jack, of course. Or I've got James McAtee. Who would you sort of look at, Jack, to sort of label as the man that you think Fulham should target this transfer window?
I think Zinchenko. I think Zinchenko fits the mould of what we want. A player who's very comfortable playing in midfield, who can play at left back, and because Cess has now moved forward to the right wing and can play left wing, that seems to be his new role, which means that we need a backup left back, which means that Zinchenko can slot in if Robinson's out or Carabao Cup or whatever rotation. And it means that we have an extra body in midfield as well because of the versatility he brings to the team. It's a deal that probably wouldn't cost much, probably 10 to 12 million, and we could probably structure that very, very well. And I think that's going to be a goer. I think that's going to be one that's going to rumble on.
He's such a Fulham signing.
He does. He sounds like a Fulham signing. Look, he's surplus to requirements. Like Arsenal don't necessarily need him. He doesn't have to move across. I mean, north to West London is not too bad. There's no one else showing an interest in him right now apart from AC Milan, and I think they've actually called their interest in him. So we could have a free shot at this. The Matt Ryan one is one he's a freeze that could come in at any point. I know there's interest. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm sure he'll take time to assess his options, because if you're being sold a dream of playing in the World Cup as the number one for Australia, do you want to be playing second fiddle in the Premier League and playing hardly any minutes? Probably not. But the attraction of being in the Premier League, and actually you never know what's going to happen with Leno in terms of injuries and whatever, then he might be called upon, and he's certainly good enough to be playing in the Premier League. So it's definitely one to watch. McAtee, was it McAtee? I think McAtee.
McAtee, yeah.
I think it's just another name that in and around those positions. I know there's interest, but I just don't necessarily think we're going to go for that. And I can't remember the other one you said, but the Zinchenko one is for me the one that stands out.
Yeah, of course. When you look at the situation with King Kenny Tete, do you think that we're sort of lining up more towards him using Everton, like as the person who that is going to stand up out the bar to sort of get more dollar out the cottage, or do you think he's doing the opposite? He's going to try and force some more money on Merseyside? What do you reckon?
I think it's really tough. I think this is really tough. Like, even now, I mean, it was 5 days ago this came out that he was joining Everton. 2-3 days ago it came out that Fulham have put a contract offer on the table. I still, at this point, have no idea what's going to happen. I actually have no idea. I think there's definitely a situation where we've offered him a contract earlier in the year. He's rejected it. Everton have put a contract on the table, probably more money, a better wage structure, a better like 2 years of an option, maybe. I'm not sure. Fulham have gone, shit, we're going to lose a player on a free here, a player who's a first teamer. So we've already matched it, maybe betted it. And then suddenly he's got a decision to make. There's been no indication from what I've heard in the last few days about where he's going to go. Seamus Coleman signing a new contract today at Everton has nothing to do with the fact that Kenny Tete might be joining Fulham. Sorry, might be staying at Fulham, might be joining Everton. It's just another option to have at right back. So I actually, this is one I have the least idea about. I've been trying to find out for days, and nothing's coming my way. I'm sure we'll find out more in the few days, because it's going to get to the end of June. Then the contract's going to be up. Then he's going to be officially a free agent. But right now, it's anyone's guess, really.
Another man who's been linked with a new contract at Fulham is obviously Tom Cairney. Now, I was having a conversation earlier, and I said, who would you rather signs a new deal? Would you rather Tom signs a new deal, or would you rather Tete signs a new deal? I'll get your opinion on that, Jack.
Tete, and as only because you're thinking about the short-term future of the club in terms of security and in terms of position. And obviously, like, it kind of pains me to say it, because TC is wonderful. And if we were to lose TC, where he doesn't sign a new contract and he just sort of goes off as a free agent, it feels a very sour way to finish the relationship between Fulham and Tom Cairney. But at this moment, like, we need a right back, and we can save ourselves a hell of a lot of money by not signing Bellanova, which has, by the way, gone very, very quiet. Whereas TC, we've got other options in midfield. We've got Josh coming through as well, who's very excited, could play in that position. And it just feels to me as if, certainly from people I've spoken to, not to do with my work or anything, just friends that I've spoken to who are Fulham fans, they would probably they've said to me, look, we need Tete signed to a new contract. It would be nice if we had TC as well, but the priority is Tete, because he's the one that's going to be basically playing 35 plus games for us next season. TC probably won't be as much, but obviously I'm not saying I don't want TC to sign, but if you put me in a difficult situation, if I had to pick between the two, just for logical reasons, it'd have to be Kenny.
Yeah, of course. There's been sort of declining talk about João Palhinha with return to the cottage. I think that for me would be a bit of a no-brainer. I think the realism of that, of course, is maybe a different question. But do you see João being able to fit back into this Fulham team? I think that for me, he would be the perfect player to sort of unlock Sander Berge, let him move further forward, sort of showcase what he showcased at Burnley, at Sheffield United, at Genk even. Yeah. Do you think João would fit well into a bit of a revamped system since he was last out of the cottage?
It's basically a shoo-in. He's basically a shoo-in, because what's basically happened is we've lost João Palhinha, and essentially we've brought in Sander Berge, who is technically a centre mid, but he can play in the central defensive midfield. And it's the exact same with Sasha Lukic. We're just lucky that we have two players who have basically, under Silva, especially with Lukic, learnt both roles. And what bringing Palhinha would do is it would allow Berge and Lukic just to play a little bit further forward. It's a shame, because it's actually going to be a different dynamic, because what will happen is, I would imagine, we're going to lose that partnership between Berge and Lukic if Palhinha comes in. And it's been such a strong partnership that it almost feels unfair and harsh to break that up. But a player of Palhinha's quality, I mean, if it does happen, which right now just doesn't, I've heard nothing about it for about 5 or 6 days. But if it does happen, it'd be amazing, because he's coming back to a place he's loved. He was respected. Marco loves him. But I almost don't want to disrupt the continuity that we've got going on, because what will happen is we need to be playing Palhinha in CDM, one of Lukic and Berge, and then obviously the number 10 in Smith Rowe, King, Wilson, Pereira. It could be any of those. So it would disrupt the midfield, but it wouldn't be a negative. It'd be a positive, because we've got a better player on our hands. I just don't like the fact that they've complemented each other so well in the last season, and it feels a bit like, well, here's Palhinha. He's obviously going to get in the team over you guys when they've had such strong seasons. But we'll see. It's going to be a tough one to get over the line.
My only refraint with keeping Berge and Lukic together, like as a midfield two with no sort of alterations, I think that you saw towards the tail end of Fulham season that we became a bit quite predictable in possession. And I think with Lukic and Berge, they're quite an industrious midfield. I think that's fair to say. But for me, I think Fulham needs somebody within deeper line areas that can maybe provide a bit more creativity. And I think whilst Palhinha maybe doesn't offer that, I think that we need to give Sander Berge, for me, this is maybe my hot take of the summer, that we need to give Sander Berge that license to go forward, you know. But yeah, of course. Listen, Jack, there was one more thing I want to touch on, and this is not very professional of me, Jack, but you can still tell that I'm starting out. But When do you think that Fulham are sort of about to head towards their first signing of the season? Because we spoke about the PSR window, Jack, yesterday, beginning on, what is it, the 30th to the 1st of July, right? I think that has been tipped by me and then yourself as well, of course, as maybe the time where, while rumours do seem to be heating up now, I think maybe within the next few days or so, I think we could start to see some medicals being talked around. Do you think that's fair to say?
I mean, state of play, nothing's close. I mean, things can change very quickly. What I will mention was a great point made by Joe Sansom on the Jack and Joe show, that every time we made a signing last summer, the initial bomber came very close to when the deal got done. None of this sort of, well, I mean, I know I put out an exclusive yesterday saying that, no, we're interested because we are, but none of this, like, you know how you see certain deals. I mean, it's incredibly boring. Fabrizio Romano, Kirkes to Liverpool, he tweets about 60 times. Whereas, like, Berger, Sessegnon, Anderson was only a couple of times. It's almost like, Cuenca was a here we go, just out of nowhere.
Cuenca was the best one, out of nowhere.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
This thing with Fulham, because they're very, very careful, you know, they don't like leaking stuff, which makes my job 10 times harder.
Yeah, of course.
They are obviously very tight-lipped, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, your whole landscape of your day can change. Because I remember just sitting down, I was making some content, I was doing bits and bobs. Suddenly, here we go, Cuenca's signing for Fulham.
Yeah.
I'm like, 1, who is this guy? 2, he's basically on his way. 3, I've got to make a video. And suddenly your whole world's chatting. It wouldn't surprise me if the same thing happens this summer. Nothing will be on my radar, and suddenly Fabrizio or Ornstein or whoever will just be like, yeah, this is happening. So I say right now nothing's close, but you know, I didn't think Tete, we'd offer Tete a new contract. I didn't think we would do that, and suddenly we did, and the whole landscape changes. So I say nothing's close, but something could be close. We just don't know. I've obviously got my ears and eyes peeled to I'm trying my best to find out, or at least keep on top of it. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult. But right now, as of Friday night, nothing's close. That could all change in 10 minutes. You never know.
Oh, of course. Well, we had last night, Jack. We had the
exactly
Ornstein bomb dropped on us mid live, and I expect to be in 2 minutes as soon as we go off live stream. We'll see. I don't know. We've signed. I don't know. Pulling this back at the cottage. I'm waiting for it now. But no, this would be my please. My last question to you, Jack, will be: you sort of like alluded to earlier, not Jow, the replacement for Kenny Tete being the most like important position for Fulham to target this window. Say that Kenny does sign the new deal. Where would you target for Fulham to be their sort of marquee priority signing this summer?
The marquee signing, I've got to say, it's got to be a goal scoring winger. You know, you think of every single club that finished above us in the Premier League last season. 10 clubs finished above us, and within those 10 clubs, they've got at least one goal scoring winger. And that's discounting Jared Bowen, who's obviously West Ham, and they finished lower than us. Mbuemo, Wissa, Brennan Johnson, you know, I can't think of every, you know, the obvious ones: Salah, Trossard, Martinelli, Saka, Neto, like all these players. And I think we have goal scoring wingers in Harry Wilson, but because he was injured for a bit of the portion of last season, we didn't get to see that in full flow. And a lot of our goals, of course, came from Iwobi, because you'll be like, he scored goals last season, he assisted last season, but we need goal scorers from both sides. We need goal scorers from the number 10, Emile Smith Rowe. People will say, but they still scored goals, but we didn't score enough goals. We were relying a lot on strikers. We could have scored more goals within games we played. Reece Nelson coming close a couple of times against Brentford. The amount of times we've been leading in games, and Raul Jimenez, you know, hits the bar from 2 yards out against Wolves, we go on to lose 4-1. We've got to be more clinical when we're on top. Yeah. And to sign a player, a marquee signing, where we spend 25 plus million, like a Elliot, like a McAtee, like these players. But, you know, it's about getting the right one in and identifying that. Because obviously Harry Wilson's form right now is so good. And obviously Iwobi is so appreciated and loved by Silva. You don't see them being displaced unless a real superstar came in. And of course, Harry can play in the 10. That's fine. It's just great competition. And we need to, I think we need to spend big on that winger, and just to get us to the next level. get us into the top half of the table and possibly even Europe.
Of course. I said that there was going to be, that was my last question, but I'm going to give you one small one.
Yeah, of course you can.
I'm sorry, one more.
No, don't worry.
Much was made about last season about Emile Smith Rowe, sort of, like, if we're being honest, really being quite underwhelming, like, apart from maybe a 6-game spell towards the start of the season. Do you think that whilst we're talking about number 10s like James McAtee or Amari Hutchinson, etc., Harvey Elliott, whatever, to me, Smith Rowe seems the one that has been sort of left out a lot of this equation. Do you think that that's sort of unfair to what Emile can bring to this Fulham team?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, Elliott can play wide, McAtee can play wide, like on the right-hand side and stuff, but I wouldn't be going out and out for a number 10 this season with Josh coming through. Pereira probably may be off. I'm not sure. It's all gone a bit quiet on Pereira. But Smith Rowe he's the record signing. He's the record signing. He had a year where he didn't complete 90 minutes. Okay, I can forgive that because he had no minutes at Arsenal the previous season. Not no, but very few. Didn't get a proper pre-season. And that was the excuse. And that's the thing. I said this on Cottage Talk last night. This is the excuse I've made. I said, well, last season, this and that and this. For him last season, for the previous season, that's the excuse I made. Now, I'm sorry to say, and I don't want to be cutthroat, there are no excuses. However, from what I've seen on his social media, I know it was only one picture, but it seems as if he's put in the work in. He's put in the work in like Ryan Sessegnon is for pre-season, and that is incredibly encouraging because Smith Rowe needs to prove to everyone. Fulham fans are already questioning his ability. I think on the ball, he's absolutely amazing. His link up, absolutely amazing. It's when he receives the ball is the problem. Driving forward, he's lightweight. He has been lightweight. And I think him being in the gym, getting a bit more muscle, I'm not the strongest man in the world. Of course, I'll be shrugged off the ball by any Premier League player. But
me too, Jake. It's all right, mate. Don't worry.
Smith Rowe, the money that we spent on him, we've got to be producing more. None of this safe passing back. The goal against Everton was a great example of that. In fact, goal against Everton, home and away, but mainly away, where he picked up the ball, he ran into space, he found Iwobi, and we scored. That is what you want to be seeing from Smith Rowe week in, week out, because he has the license to run. He's very good on the ball. He just needs to be shrugging off defenders and then playing the pass, or shrugging off defenders and keep weaving forward to try and find the forward ball. I'm expecting big things from Smith Rowe next season, and I think if he doesn't perform up to the level that we expect, I think there will be not pitchforks, but there'll be a lot of pointing at him. And this season, next season, as in this season, I can't defend him because I've already used that excuse.
Yeah,
it's all on this season now. But I'm looking forward to it.
Me too, of course, Jack. Obviously, thank you very much for your time, Jack. I'll just plug myself and obviously you, but I know that you're the main man. I think that say that you're watching this video like you don't know who Jack Kelly is. What are you doing? Yeah, obviously, I think that me and you, Jack, spoke about us doing some more work together throughout next season. I think we're gonna see what happens in Portugal as well. We're going out there, have a good jolly up.
Yeah.
And then we'll see where things go. But keep your eyes peeled. I expect Cardoso to be announced the second that we're in this video. But Jack, is there anything you want to say? Or
well, I'm going to say if you're out in the Algarve, I'm going to be out there on a work capacity. But there's going to be a couple of free days I'm going to have, or free evenings, hopefully. So let's get down the strip. Let's have a few super box or a few sagares, and I probably won't go into the clubs or whatever. But I'll probably push myself to the limit where I'm stumbling.
5 pints, Jack, and we'll see, mate. Yeah, 5 pints, and we'll see where you're at.
Probably after 2, I'll be like, oh, we'll have a look. Of course, we'll have a look.
That's it, we'll have a look. We'll have a look, mate. That's it. You know the score, man.
All right,
Jack. Well, listen, man. It's been a pleasure,
thank
man.
you. Thank you very much. Because obviously it's on my end. I'm going to obviously end the recording, but please do subscribe to Charlie's channel. It's going to be fantastic throughout the whole season. Charlie, you can see this one out. Obviously, it's your thing. It's your channel.
Well, thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gents, for London's Original. There'll be much more coming. Some more solo videos, some more collaborations are coming in the next week. So yeah, thank you very much. There's more to come. Up for them.